Hey guys, we're in a nice neighborhood in Palos Verdes, California. It's a beautiful day. Enjoying the morning. People are out for a stroll, and we're checking out the Bosch Cross E8. It's one of my favorite new bikes for 2018 because it's a little bit more affordable. You know, Bosch bikes tend to be higher quality. They've got the mid-drive system from Bosch. They also have Shimano mid-drive system. These are a little bit more premium. They tend to, last well, not have as many issues. Very efficient, great range, that kind of thing. And on this bike, we also have hydraulic disc brakes. We've got some adjustability in that quill stem in terms of height, even an adjustable angle. It comes with some really cool features too. So there's a plastic chain cover to keep your pants or your skirt clean. That's if you get this deep step-through wave design. We've also got these plastic fenders from SKS, as well as integrated lights. So Fouchon headlight. This is more of a B-scene headlight. It works okay if you aim down at the path. It's not as bright as some of the Supernova and fancier stuff. And then another Fouchon rear light with a single LED and a big reflector. I like the color scheme on this. It's kind of a unisex. It's got matte black with some glossy white, gloss blue accents, and I like that the fork is tied in, as well as reflective sidewall stripes on these tires. So, you think about that when you're riding along and maybe someone's coming towards you. You want to have a nice big visual footprint. These tires are a little bit more efficient. So, you look at them, the width isn't quite as wide as some of the other tires I've seen. It's 700 by 38C. This is going to be more efficient, nimble, lightweight. It's about 56.4 pounds on this bike, which, for having lights and a rear rack style battery, this is 6 pounds versus 5.8 on the mid-frame battery. It's not terrible. Also, it's using the new Bosch Active Line Plus motor, so it's a little bit more compact. It's lightweight, 7.05 pounds compared to 8.8 on the Performance Line motors, but it only gives you up to 50 newton meters of torque versus 63. So this is definitely smoother, quieter, and one of the really unique things about it is that it uses a traditionally sized chain ring up here versus the other Bosch motors tend to use a smaller sprocket that spins a little. It's kind of quicker, gives the motor a mechanical advantage, but that produces more noise, and there's a little bit of resistance when pedaling. This one also lets you pedal backwards, which is really interesting. A lot of the mid-drive systems now, you can spin the pedal backwards, but it doesn't actually move that chain ring, so the chain kind of only goes forward. In terms of servicing a drivetrain, that's actually kind of a neat thing because you can go backwards and you can lube the chain or whatever. This has an 8-speed Shimano Alivio. It's a few steps up from the base in terms of quality and durability, so that's not bad considering this is designed to be more of a value bike from Bosch. It's still more expensive, as I mentioned, so $31.99. You get the 2-year comprehensive warranty on this. It's definitely nice to have that, as well as a shop that you might have purchased it from. You can go to get fitted, you get some service. It comes in several sizes and 2 different frame styles. So this is the deep step-through wave. They also have one with a top tube that comes across like this, more of a mixedy or mid-step frame. And then there's this nice kickstand back here, adjustable length, so you're not going to have to worry about this thing falling all over in the garage. And it's out of the way of those cranks, so if you do need to pedal backwards or maybe walk the bike backwards like this, see how those cranks turn? The pedal won't collide with the kickstand. So a lot of cool stuff to appreciate here. I think, the other area I wanted to comment on is that we've got a 160 millimeter rotor in the back and 180 up front. So rather than do 2 160s, they give you a little bit more stopping power up front. And I think that's nice, especially if you're a heavier rider or maybe you're utilizing that rear rack here, which is IRAC compatible. It's built right onto the frame, and I didn't see like a maximum weight rating on this, but I'm guessing around 50 pounds. That's the average with most of the racks that I see, and it even has a pannier hanger on the side. There's not a ton of space between this rod and the side of the battery, so I wonder if that would actually work with some of the clip-on panniers. It's something, I've seen some other ones where it's bowed out a little bit, and I'd love to get your feedback on that if you get this bike. A lot of the panniers will also clip up here if you want to. And again, if you're in Europe, they have the IRAC accessories. It's just, there's a bit of more of an opening here. We don't have like a second strut as a pannier blocker. And that rod, it just, that was one of the question marks when I was looking at this bike. The other thing that I noticed is that being a wave style frame, you get a little bit of frame flex. So if you grab the bike like this and you shake back and forth, there's a little bit of crack the whip happening back there. The energy, it's kind of bending the frame. It's an aluminum alloy frame. And if you're, standing up and you're really pedaling this thing, you might feel the bike just flex a little bit. It's not the end of the world, one of the bigger concerns is, okay, is there speed wobble, which happens when, you know, the frame's flexing a little bit and you've got a lot of weight up and towards the back of the bike versus the front. It's not spread out as much, so the front can kind of start to wobble, and it's basically trying to find like this even plane. There are certain speeds where that can happen. I haven't had that so much on this bike. Bulls has another one called the Cruiser E, and it has like more of a raked out fork, so the front wheel's even further forward and maybe not having even quite as much weight distributed across it. And that one does get a little bit of speed wobble. It's not much of a problem if you just hold the handlebars, but when I do my tests, sometimes I ride with no hands just to see, and that's one of the trade-offs with the rear rack battery. So on the one hand, you get this super low step over. It's easy to stand over this bike and feel comfortable and confident at like a stoplight, or even lower the seat. And you can get this pretty low, especially if you slide the saddle forward. You can bring it down, maybe not all the way because the rack, it starts to get in the way. And then this bag, you'd have to take that off. So I would think about that. Also, you know, the front suspension's okay. It's like 63 millimeters of travel. It's got preload adjust. You actually have to take these plastic covers off, and then you'd almost like use a penny and twist, and you have to twist both of them. So it's a cheaper fork. It doesn't have compression adjust and lockout. It doesn't have rebound adjust. It's not an air fork, it's a coil fork, which comes back to some of the weight on this bike. It's just a cheaper part. And the Fouchon light, it's mounted to the bridge versus being mounted to the head tube or maybe the handlebars. So if you're going over bumpy terrain, the light's going to be bouncing up and down while the rest of the bike is suspended and smooth. And that could just wear it out a little quicker and just give you kind of a jittery view. Also, the deep step-through doesn't have bottle cage bosses on the seat tube or that top tube, which is kind of a bummer. I'm not sure everyone would use those. You could put a cup holder up here, you could have a bag. There's plenty of other solutions. It's just it's nice to have the option to put like a folding lock or just another accessory to mount it. I believe that the mixed frame, the mid-step, it does have bottle cage bosses. So, you know, it's back to the compromise. The Wave is going to be really easy to approach and very comfortable, I think, but you're going to get a little bit more frame flex. You're not going to get those bottle cages. It might even be a little bit heavier. Those are the things that we're thinking about. So coming back here to the drivetrain, when you're shifting gears and you're using a mid-drive, you can get a little bit of mashing and just that extra strain on the chain, the sprockets, the derailleur. And one of the neat things about the Bosch systems is that they have like shift detection. So it's measuring sort of that oscillation of power when you pedal, and it's like, okay, that's their pedal strokes. But when it feels like an extra bit of strain from this derailleur moving the chain, it's designed to actually ease off a little bit and pull the motor back so that you're not straining the drivetrain, which is really fancy. It's nice. It's not something that you see on all the other mid-drive systems. It's not perfect, but it works pretty well. And I noticed that they've even got kind of a bash guard, like a chain ring protector alloy, in addition to that chain cover. So that's going to keep the chain from falling off on the inside. So I like the drivetrain, even though they're using a little bit cheaper part. That's fine for getting around town, kind of a neighborhood thing, maybe even for commuting. And you should get excellent range because this is the Powerpack 500, 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours. Again, it's slightly heavier than the mid-frame mounted pack, but it actually looks really nice once you have panniers on it and stuff. The bike just blends in. You can see from the side that chain ring basically obscures the motor from the side, and that brings some of the weight down and center on the frame. So, you know, I like what I'm seeing here, and they do have that extra reinforcement point. It's pretty good setup. In terms of comfort, the suspension is pretty good, but this freeway gel saddle from Cellular Royals is also nice. It's got some rubber bumpers. Sometimes I comment on adding a seat post suspension. That would be 30.9 millimeters if you wanted to swap that out. But then you have to take this bag off and you get like 3 more inches that you can't go down past because you need room for the suspension. So I'm not sure I would mess with that too much. The quill stem goes up and down. The angle on the stem here is nice, but you'll notice it's pretty far forward for me. I'm on a medium-sized frame right now, and these ergonomic grips and that swept back bar, it actually feels quite comfortable. I like the bell. I like the Shimano. These are 3-finger hydraulic disc brake levers. They've got adjustable reach, so you can kind of bring the levers in a little bit if you have a small hand and you're getting a small size frame. All very nice. It's a pretty good setup. A lot of stuff that I've seen on other kind of competing models, it might just come back to, is there a dealer available? What's your price point? Do you like the way this one looks? Do you want the mixedy? Being able to get a frame size that fits your body is also really, really cool. Sometimes when they're trying to get the bike super cheap, you only get one size or maybe 2. And this one, the fact that it comes in several is is wonderful. And it is a purpose-built frame too. You know, it costs a lot of money to build something with the cables all internally routed and this special bracket at the bottom for the motor. I think it's pretty nice. The pedals are a little bit cheaper, and you can see this one's gotten bashed up a little bit because I think it was at a demo. If the bike gets tipped or they get scraped, that can get kind of sharp. So I might consider replacing those. If you're someone who's sensitive about getting cut, you could get some rubber or plastic ones. I like the alloy Welgo ones that are a little bit sturdier and they have metal nubs versus these waves and this open. That's going to add a little bit of weight, but it's not the end of the world. Quick release on the front and rear wheels. That's very nice. And then you can see this little sensor, Bosch sensor, measures rear wheel speed, and it's measuring pedal cadence and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. It's pretty sensitive. So coming back to shifting, I ease off just a little bit and it notices the pedal torque has gone down, and so it pulls back on the motor almost instantly, and that allows me to shift really smoothly. One thing I did notice when riding is that it feels pretty smooth when I'm pedaling, and then as soon as I stop, there's a little bit of a kunk, like you can feel it. It almost feels like momentum, but what I think it is that chain ring is still spinning for just an extra second before it completely stops. And the drivetrain, because you can pedal backwards, you know, it's all connected. So there's just a moment where it's like I'm pedaling, and then there's a little bit of a blip there. I don't get that quite as much on the Bosch Performance Line motors, but again, they're louder, they weigh a little bit more, you know, 1.75 pounds more, and they're more expensive. So yep, as far as charging that battery, here's the charger. It's a 4-amp charger, 1.7 pounds, pretty compact and lightweight. You could bring it along if you had a little bag on the back of your bike. And then one of the other neat things is they were able to key the battery to match this frame lock down here. So this is from AXA. You can see that on this other side here. And there's a metal piece that slides through here. I'm not going to be able to show it because I only have one hand, unfortunately. But apparently they also give you this AXA bag, which has a chain lock in it. So see this? So you can actually, you know, plug this into the side of the lock like this, right? And then you lock this, it puts a rod through the back wheel, and you can take this chain and wrap it around a pole, which is really nice. So not only can someone not ride your bike, but they can't get it off the pole without cutting through this pretty thick lock. It's neat to have all of that included, even a little bag, just a nice little extra. And I went ahead and inserted the keys into the mount for the battery. And I wanted to point out that there's a charging port on the right-hand side. If you just pull out on this battery, there's the same interface at the bottom. So you can charge the battery on or off the bike. Again, about 6 pounds, 36 volts, 13.4 amp hours. Nice to be able to bring this into the office if you're using this bike for commuting, or maybe you live somewhere where the temperatures get really extreme, like in the winter or summer. It's best to store batteries in a, you know, kind of a cool, dry environment for optimum like lifespan. As lithium ion, they tend to be pretty reliable and durable. Activating the bike is a snap. You press a power button on top of this Bosch Purion display panel. It's small, it's compact, stays out of the way, it's not too complex. I have noticed that if you push directly into the buttons, they don't always click. It's on more of a pivot. So if you press closer to the display, then they work a little bit better. So this isn't quite as big as the Bosch Intuvia display panel, and apparently some shops can actually, you know, let you upgrade to that. You pay a little bit more money, they put it there. I like the Intuvia because it's removable. It's got an active USB port on the side so you could charge your phone or something else. But the Purion's nice and simple. It stays out of the way. It doesn't adjust in terms of angle either, so you might get a little bit of glare, but again, the display itself is pretty small. It's got walk mode here on the bottom, so if we press that and then we hold plus, the bike would actually move itself forward slowly. And that can be nice if it's loaded up with gear, or maybe you're climbing a steep hill just talking to your friend. You don't want to ride. You can use walk mode. So at the top here we have speed in miles per hour. You can change that to kilometers per hour holding mile minus and tapping the power button. So there we go, switching back and forth. And then we have assist level in the middle. So if I press plus, it goes to eco. So we weren't off. Eco, tour, sport, and turbo. And then we've got battery infographic at the bottom. So 5 ticks. Each tick mark is a 20% increment. It'd be nice if this was a percentage, but you know, it gets the job done. And there's a really cool feature here. If we hold minus, to circle through some of the trip stats, we have range. So depending on the level of assist you choose and how full the battery is, as well as how you've been riding for the past mile or so, it'll actually dynamically calculate the range and give you some feedback on how far it thinks you can go. So I'm going to take it all the way up to turbo, and it says with a full battery, you can probably go 42 miles, which is fantastic because turbo is the highest level of assist. Again, you're only getting 50 newton meters of torque versus 63 or even 75 on some of the other higher end Bosch motors. But for getting around a neighborhood, this is quiet, it's efficient, and it's really well suited to that type of environment. Take it all the way down to eco. This is the lowest level of assist. It basically just helps you offset the weight of the bike. That says 98 miles, so that's fantastic. I was estimating, 38 to maybe, 117 is what the Bosch website says. Again, this is saying 98, so your mileage may vary, but it's cool that it has that all built in. And then if you hold minus again, there's some other menus here. We've got the assist level, as well as trip distance and total distance or odometer. You don't have max speed, you don't have average speed, you don't have clocks. Those are some of the other things you get with the Intuvia display, but maybe you don't care. You're just kind of riding around town in a relaxed sort of way. So speaking of that, let's hop on and give it a try. I'm going to take it up to turbo because I want you to be able to hear and see the motor responding in its most optimal level. Okay, we're kind of up to the top level of assistance. One of the other things about the Active Line Plus is it only assists you up to 105 RPM versus 120 RPM on the Performance Line motors. That's something you might notice if you like to spin really fast. If you're like kind of doing this, the motor's fading out right now. That's about as fast as you can pedal before the motor kind of eases back. And it is more audible at this high level. I just love how quickly it starts and stops, so it's not like it's continuing to propel me after I stop pedaling. It feels very secure to me. And then switching gears, we'll try that shift detection. Whoa boy. Yeah, and I did notice that the motor cut out a little bit when I did that, so it seems like it's doing its job. It's neat that there's a little window there so you can get some idea for what level of gear you're in. Whoa boy. Hey guys, we're still in turbo, the highest level of assist. You're aimed down, looking at that chain ring. You're very close to the motor, so you can get some idea for how it sounds when I'm riding fast versus slow, and how quickly it responds. I'm also going to do some shifting. That was pretty cool. I was able to reach 23 miles per hour. Top assisted speed is actually 20, but the tires, the road, everything here is very efficient and had no problem coasting faster, especially because there was a little bit of a hill back there. Now you're aimed a little bit more up so you can see the front fender and the front suspension. I'm going to go over the cobblestones again. Yeah, in my opinion, it's actually pretty quiet going over these rougher terrain. I definitely noticed the Active Line motors is more subtle. I weigh 135 pounds. It's not quite as satisfying or easy to reach 20 miles per hour in a short amount of time. It takes a little bit of time to build up, and you have to shift gears to, really maximize efficiency with the motor. But otherwise, it's performing pretty well. And we'll do like maybe a no hands test here. So yeah, I mean, it feels pretty stable. 700C, the larger diameter wheel set gives you a bit more efficiency, but it does elevate the bike a little bit compared to like 26-inch tires or 27.5, it's like a mountain bike size. So I think they just went with the city style on this bike for efficiency, and it works pretty well. It feels smooth. There's a lower attack angle, so if you go over bumps with these wheels, you know, it doesn't quite fall into the gaps, it spans them, and it makes for a more comfortable ride. So let's listen to it on this cobblestone stuff. Pretty quiet. I mean, there's a little bit of rattle going on because those plastic fenders, I think, and that's sort of to be expected, but they're attached for what seems like pretty securely, multiple points on the frame. So you shouldn't end up having a big issue with noise on this. And if you take care of it, make sure you keep the stuff tight, take it to the shop occasionally for them to give you a tune-up. Nice, guys. Well, this is a wonderful area to ride around. I'm glad I could share it with you a little bit. That's the Bosch Cross E8. For the full written review on this, including all the specs and some feedback and other people's comments, pictures and stuff, I'll see you at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, have fun out there. Ride safe.